الرحمن الرحيم واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون صدق الله العظيم. Respected ulama kiram and my dear young friends, in the previous ruku Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the reasons why He sends a prophet, that He sends him to show the nation the correct path. And then in the last verse of the first ruku Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the outcomes of the different types of people. Those who lent attentive ear and they listen to the messenger and they accepted his call and they submitted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts khashiyat in their heart and He guides them and gives them iman, which in turn gives them a fruitful and a bountiful life in this world and eternal happiness in the hereafter. Whereas those people who disobeyed the Prophet and they showed arrogance and they disbelieved, then for them it's a life of a depressing life. And when the Qiyamah will take place, then they will be doomed forever. This was the reality that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned. But it is human nature that along with the reality, when an example is mentioned, then the reality settles and enters the heart more firmly. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of humans and He understands which is the best way to make them understand and in which way they will take heed in the best possible way. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in numerous places in the Quran, whenever He mentions an important topic, an important when something important is mentioned, then He also brings examples. And this was also the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when He would talk to His Sahabas and He wanted to put forward an important article or important information, then He would back it up with an example. And the purpose of the example is that it creates more strength and the message becomes more effective. Likewise, even we see that even in our lives, if we sometimes want to explain to a child or if you want to explain to a student and we want to make sure that he understands properly, then we will explain the reality of something to him. And then to make the thing more effective, we will also bring an example. For example, somebody is asking for a job and he's getting transferred to a different place. I was having a conversation with somebody today, and one is that you explain whether it's good or not, and if it's not good, you give the examples of it's not good for these reasons. You give them reasons. But sometimes that does not settle in the mind properly. But if you give an example, the place you are going to or the place you're thinking of going to work, okay, you'll get a better salary, but that place that you are deciding to go, it's a place where crime is out and there's a lot of disorder. And have you heard such and such a person went there and he came back and he was beaten up or a murder took place? Jobio, these examples become more effective and it will have an impact on the person's mind. So likewise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions the reality that those who believe, they will have a good life, they will have a fruitful life. And those who disbelieve and disagree and in fact go against the Prophet and become a hurdle, for them there will be a difficult life. The Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the next few ayats, in fact the next ruku, He brings a story that He tells Rasulullah that cite to them, inform them, cite to them the example of the people of the town. إِذْ جَاءَ الْمُرْسَلُونَ, when the messengers came to that town. إِذْ أَرْسَلْنَا إِلَيْهِمُ اثْنَيْنِ فَكَذَّبُوهُمَا, when we sent them two messengers, فَكَذَّبُوهُمَا, they rejected them both. فَعَزَّزْنَا بِثَالِثٍ, so we supported them too with a third one. فَقَالُوا إِنَّا إِلَيْكُمْ مُرْسَلُونَ, and they said to the people, we are sent to you as prophets. We are being sent to you. قَالُوا مَا أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُنَا, they, the people of the town, said, مَا أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُنَا, you are no more than humans like us. وَمَا أَنزَلَ الرَّحْمَنُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ, and Rahman has not sent down anything. إِنْ أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا تَكْذِبُونَ, you are but telling a lie. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts to tell the story that narrate to a mushriks of Makkah and everybody else that is listening and who will come across this Quran, that if you don't listen to a message, then look at this example, because this same thing happened. This same thing occurred before. And the whole purpose of history, the whole purpose of stories is that there's a lesson behind it. The reason why history is taught, or history should be taught, is so that people don't make the same mistakes. That those people did this and the outcome was this. If you do this, your outcome will be the same. So in the same way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning this story, that there was a place, that there was a place, Qarya, which we'll go into later. But what's the purpose of saying the story? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in another place in the Quran, لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصٍ عِبْرَةٌ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. That the whole point of mentioning these stories in the Quran are not as pastime. They are not to entertain people. They are not there so you can sit at night and spend 2 hours reading. In fact, all the stories in the Quran that have been mentioned are ibratul li albab, or examples where humans can put thought and change their life and have practical changes. They become a means of pondering, a means of understanding, a means of ibrat. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that we sent to the Qarya, to the town, some messengers. Now ulama say, what was this Qarya? What is this town that the Quran is talking about? Majority of the Mufassirin mentioned that it was a place by the name of Antioch. Antioch, nowadays it's also in Arabic, it's called Antakya, which was a town in the greater Syria, and it was famous for its stability, growth, and it had forts and safety. There was walls around it. So you can imagine the people were in great safety, the growth was really good, there was stability. So they had a very good life, a easy life, a life filled with tranquility, peace, etc. There's a book by the name of Mu'jamul Buldan, which means the encyclopedia of countries. So the author Yaqut al-Hamawi mentions that Al-Qarya in the Quran is referring to this particular place, because in this place Antakya, there is a grave where people say that this grave belongs to a person called Habib. And later on the story is mentioned about Habib al-Najjar, who was a person who came from the far corners of this city, and he warned these people that don't go against these messengers. In fact, listen to what they're saying and adopt what they're saying and accept what they are saying. But when he said this, the whole town fell on him and they started pelting him with stones and they killed him and they martyred him. And this person, Habib, his grave is there. So Mufassirin say that if his grave is there, that means he was living in that town. And if he was living in that town, that means that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the Ashabul Qarya, the people of the town, he's talking about that town. Allama ibn Kathir differs from this. He says that this Qarya that is mentioned in the Quran is not talking about Antakya or Antioch, because this town Antioch is out of the four main towns where Christianity was. Christianity in the beginning, Isa salam's madhab was spread in 4 main countries: Quds, Rome, Antakya, and Alexandria, Iskandariya, which is in Egypt. So these 4 countries were, you could say, the core places where there was Christianity. And Allama Yaqut al-Hamawi mentions that this particular place was known for its churches. So you can imagine that if there's churches there, then that means that there was Christians there. So Allah ibn Kathir mentions that this place Al-Qarya cannot be this Antakya, Antioch. Why? Because this place that is mentioned, Al-Qarya, is known to have been people that were idol worshippers. And if you are saying that he had churches and Christians, and this is opposite, that means that it can't be this Al-Qarya can't be referring to this Antioch, because there was churches there, as Yaqut al-Hamawi mentions in his encyclopedia of the countries. And the second thing is that in the Quran later Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that in kanat illa sayhata wahida fa idahum qamidun, that we sent a single cry. Some say it was Jibreel, an angel, he screamed, and the scream was such that the whole country, with his occupants, inhabitants, instantly they were extinguished and nothing was left. So if nothing was left, but this Antioch in the time of Sahabas, Hazrat Ghaliban Ubayd ibn al-Jarrah, he's the one that conquered it. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says he destroyed it, then how can he conquer the country? How can he conquer that area? So Ibn Kathir rahmatullah mentions that according to the Quran, it looks like it was not this. Al-Qaryah does not refer to Antioch, because number one, there was Christians there, and these people were sent not to Christians. In fact, they were sent to idol worshippers. And it later comes that they did not accept the call of the messengers, and they were all destroyed. So how can there be Christians there? And number two, if the country was destroyed, how can it be conquered by Hazrat Ubayr ibn al-Jarrah? So he says, even though it could be Antioch, but it could be another country by the name, another place by the name of Antakya. Anyway, Hazrat Mawshawi Tami rahmatullah mentions that whatever the Mufassirin says, some say that it was this country or it was this town, and some say it wasn't that town. He says it doesn't create, it is not of great significance, because whether it was that town or it wasn't that town, it makes no difference to the lessons that are meant to be derived from, because this story has lessons within it, and the lessons are not dependent on the town. Whether you know the town or you don't know the town, the lessons will still be derived. So Imam Hazrat Mawshawi Tawmi mentions that the conclusion is that whether it was Antakya or it wasn't Antakya, it doesn't make big difference. Anyway, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on to say that is Ja'al Mursalun, that when the messengers came. Now the second question that Mufassirin posed is that the word here mentioned is Mursalun, and Mursalun generally means a Rasul, a prophet. But there are two meanings. One is the linguistic meaning, the literal meaning, which means a message bearer. And one is the technical meaning, the Shari'i meaning, which means somebody who has been sent with a message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why angels are also called Rusul, because they bring the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And prophets are also called Rasul, because they bring the message of Allah. But this ayat, he says, is Ja'al Mursalun, when the messengers came. Is it talking about, were they real messengers? Were they messengers that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent? Or were they message bearers? What does message bearer mean? Message bearer means somebody that you send to give a message. I send Muhammad that go and tell Fulana that go and give this message to him. So technically, Muhammad is my Rasul. You can say he's my Rasul. Not Rasul meaning the Rasul that brings the message of Allah. He's my Rasul in literal meaning that I have sent him a message and he's going to go and deliver that message. So Mufassirin say, were these people message bearers, meaning were they sent by another prophet, or were they real prophets? So again, in this case, there are difference of opinion. Some Mufassirin say that no, they were prophets. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent them, just like He sent 124,000 prophets. Out of them, these were also prophets. And why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on to say later on, إِذْ أَرْسَلْنَا, when we sent them. When we sent. So when Allah sent, it means a prophet. But some say no, it wasn't prophets in the technical term, in the Shari'i term, which means messengers. It was the literal meaning, which means message bearer, because in reality they were in the time of Isa alayhi salam. And in Isa alayhi salam's time, Isa alayhi salam was a prophet. And these people were the Qasim, were the Rasuls, were the messengers of the messenger. They were the message bearers of Isa alayhi salam. Isa alayhi salam sent them to this locality, that go to this locality because they are idol worshippers, and go to them and give them the message, there is one Allah, and you shouldn't do shirk, and you should subdue and submit to Allah. So some say that they were in fact message bearers of Isa alayhi salam. So then the question arises that why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then say Arsalna, when we sent him? So if Allah sent them, then how can Isa alayhi salam, how can they be message bearers of Isa alayhi salam? So ulama say that the backdrop behind this is that when Isa alayhi salam is a messenger, then a messenger only does what Allah tells him. A messenger only does what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him. So when a messenger, Isa alayhi salam, if he was to send these two disciples of his to this locality, then in reality he only sent them. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructed them. So in reality, Isa alayhi salam was only a medium. The actual instruction came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why it is right to say that when we sent them, we instructed Isa alayhi salam, and Isa alayhi salam sent them two people. So what happened? Initially, two were sent to the locality. And these two people were sent to the locality to propagate deen. But the people of the locality did not accept. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, rather than destroying them, rather than totally getting rid of them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shafqat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rahmat, it gave taqaza, and it brought this, that fa'azzazna bi thalithin. We did not destroy them, rather we sent a third one. That you go and also give them the same message that we have come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's side, and we want you to leave this idol worshipping and we want you to accept deen. But قَالُوا مَا أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُنَا. When these three prophets went, then first of all they said that we don't believe you. Who sent you as a prophet? Who says you're a prophet? What's the proof? And this was generally the case all the time. Whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends a prophet, the general people, the nation, the local people, their arguments are baseless. And they usually revolve around this. That who sent you as a messenger? Why has Allah chosen you as a messenger? What do you have that you have a higher ranking than us? You are a human like us. مَا أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُنَا. You are just a human like us. What gave you this speciality, this exclusivity that Allah chose you from to be a Nabi? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Bashar Rasulah? Has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a human as a prophet? Why can't why can't He send a Rasul? Why can't He send a Farishta? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send an angel? And Mali hadha Rasul, Yaqulu Ta'am, what's wrong with this prophet? Yaqulu Ta'am, he's eating food. Wayimshuna fil aswaq, and he's walking in the marketplaces. So these were the general baseless comments and the arguments that they would put forward whenever a Nabi would come. Similarly, this locality did the same thing. That as soon as they were told that we are prophets and we have come to guide you and take you out of darkness and take you towards Deen and towards Islam and towards Jannah, straight away they said that, who sent you? Who said you are prophets? And like I said, this was the same argument all the time. And that argument doesn't make sense, because if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was to send an angel, then angels, can we see them? No. So if angels were sent as prophets, we wouldn't be able to see them. So how would you follow them? How do you act upon what they say? Impossible. And if Allah gave us the strength to see a prophet, to see an angel, He would give us the strength that you can see the angel coming down from the skies with wahi, with revelation. What's happened there? Ghaib has opened up. Ghaib is something that you can't see. Allah told us there's angels. We can't see them. We believe this is our yaqeen, this is our iman. This is ghaib. But the rule is, when ghaib opens up to you, and you don't believe, then what does Allah SWT do? Instantly destroys you. Instantly destroys you. That's why وَإِذَا وَقَى الْقَوْلُ وَخَرَجَ مِنْ دَابَّةٍ مِنْ تُكَلِّمُ النَّاسَ كَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا لَا يُوقِنُونَ. That when towards Qiyamah, the Mount Safa will rip open and an animal will come out, and that animal will go around and he will strike with a stick. Those people who are Muslims, they will have nur galib on their faces, and those who are kafir, he'll say kafara. So what's happened now? Ghaib has opened up. As soon as Ghaib opens up, can you believe? It's too late. Same with when you die, when you're in your last moments of life. Fir'aun was on his last moments, and he saw, what did he see? He see the angel. He saw Jibreel. So he said, Al-An. He said, Amantu Rabbi Harun wa Musa. I have brought Iman on Harun and Musa's Lord. So Allah said, Al-An, now you bring Iman. It's too late. Why? Ghaib has opened up to you. That Iman is not mu'tabar now, because Alladhina yu'minuna bil ghaib. The Iman which is mu'tabar, the Iman which is accepted is which Iman? The Iman that you see, the Iman that you accept without seeing Ghaib. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was to send an angel, that means Ghaib has opened up, the pardas of Ghaib have opened. If after the pardas and the veils of Ghaib opens up and you don't accept, then Allah will destroy you. So in the third scenario is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends an angel in the form of a human, and you can see him and imagine he did not destroy you. Then what happened? The next argument they would put forward is that, okay, you praying namaz, you exert yourself in ibadah, but you're an angel. You have no necessities. You have no wife. You have no children. You've got no food. You've got to work. You've got to earn a livelihood. You've got necessities. You've got hajats. You've got things to see to. So you praying a namaz, we can't pray namaz like you. You sit in the masjid 24/7, you don't have to eat. We have to go home, so how can we follow you? So you're not an example for us. So that would be the next example. That would be the next argument. So Allah SWT mentions that it was impossible to send an angel as a prophet, because there would be too many complications. That's why Allah SWT do. Whenever He sent the Nabi, He sent them from their own locality or from humans. Why? Because they are easy to be reverted to. You can refer to them easily. So Allah SWT goes on to say that they were saying that قَالُوا مَا أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُنَا. That they said, you are nothing but human like us. وَمَا أَنزَلَ الرَّحْمَنُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. And Rahman has not sent down anything. What's your proof? Allah has not sent anything. And then, usually, when people tell them and they don't want to accept, And the last thing they do is straight away, in antum illa takdhibun, you are but telling a lie. All you're doing is lying to us. And that's when they start to belie the Prophet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then goes on to say, وَمَا زَوْنَ إِنْتُ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا يَعْلَمُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then goes on to say what the conversation these prophets or these messenger or message bearers had with the people. Inshallah, we'll continue this next week, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us understanding. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanallah wa bihamdihi, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu.